We both have a little bit of a basketball background. And it's just interesting when you look at social media culture now, where everybody's creating a social hierarchy around like, what's your time in that Hyrox? What's your time in that workout? How much weight did you lift? But when you look at the top sports in the world and the highest performers, like the measurables are usually the scoreboard. And so what comes to mind when you think about using the weight room and using fitness as a tool for sports performance rather than it being the performance?
Well, for me, it's always been trusting an athlete to feel how they perform. There's a qualitative status that I think is massively important, especially at the higher levels of athletics. You talk to somebody like Kevin Durant. I don't obviously talk to Kevin Durant, but Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, or any of these basketball players that say they don't feel good when they lift heavy, when they do bilateral back squats. And then we talk down to them, the performer, like, no, bro, I promise it's better for you. And they're like, my back hurts when I'm done. And I think that measurement of qualitative feels of the performer is incredibly important to pay attention to and not talk over them. One of the coolest spots, I'm forgetting the name, is up there in Santa Barbara. They do the measurements of performance. And what the biggest corollary they found for basketball performance was the ability to brake or decelerate. And that was Luka and Harden. And you go, oh, no wonder they score so many points because they have such control over their body. It wasn't back squat. It wasn't even counter jumps. It wasn't even like agility drills. It was just, can you stop? And none of these, and all the top five, I believe, didn't correlate with any weight room output directly. Obviously, the weight room can help with it. But the point I was trying to make is, hey, how they feel, how they perform on the court, not the weight room.
Yeah, that's very well said. I remember when I first got into coaching like individuals, and I would spend all Sunday like building out like a 12-week squat program. Then I'd have a client come in and they'd be like, oh, I played in 4 hockey games yesterday and my left knee's sore and my Achilles is sore. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. You're going to do my squat program. And it's just like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm flexing all this like exercise physiology that I learned in school. And let me prove to you why this is worth your investment. And then over the course of time, I'm like, what in the fuck am I doing? I'm forcing a square peg to fit in a round hole. Not only is this dumb, but it's irresponsible. And it just like punched me in the face and exploded my ego to realize that like, this isn't it. Like, you're 100% correct. It's like listening to the individual and then going into the file cabinet of the headspace to seek those reservoirs of like energy systems, load management, what this athlete needs, recovery, truly listening to the individual and not just, let me try to treat these people like lab rats and have them be my freaking weekly experiment. And I want to unpack that a little bit with you because I see that a lot in fitness where like people aren't customizing the approach to where the human is in that moment. They're trying to anticipate where the human maybe should be or where they think they should be on a weekly basis because that's scalable for consumerism. It's scalable for business development. It's easier to make an app when you can program the whole week ahead. But humans are malleable creatures. And I'm curious your thoughts as to how to communicate that to the audience to better understand that like feel intuition is a huge part of that. And those other things that I mentioned can kind of be the framework or the blueprint and tools to access when needed.
So that the big words there for me to consider is that feel and intuition. A lot of people, unfortunately, have not developed this in life. So you as an athlete, myself with some athletic background, we have a pretty decent idea. We may be stubborn and ignore it to compete, but we have a pretty decent idea of how we feel. I know when I'm playing basketball, if I'm under 195, my knees feel much better than they do at 200. And it's like, does that 5 pound difference really make a difference? I'm like, yeah, it absolutely does. Because I can tell you for 3 days post gains or jumping. But most clients are walking around feeling like garbage all the time. They felt like garbage for a very long time. They don't really know how this is making them feel except for excruciatingly sore. So they lack the ability to self-modulate energy and output. And so because of that, to your point, it's easier to run a business to say, we're going to do this, and then we're going to increase, and then we're going to increase, we're going to increase, and then we're going to change whatever variables. So I think at the outset for clients, having a pre-game plan for relatively new people can be really beneficial from a learning experience of what they should expect from potential adaptations. But where we come in as coaches is the ongoing conversations about how are you feeling from this? Here's where I would make an adjustment based on what you said. And we can leverage some tools here with HRV, with morning heart rate, with grip performance that we check really quick, vertical jump testing that we check really quick after the warm up, and make real-time decisions. If you use velocity-based training, you can use that. If the velocity is much lower than normal, you can kind of point to data and say, your performance is objectively worse today. It's probably better for us to pull your intensity down and not crush you again. So the intuition is a learned experience that a preset program with a good amount of communication in a, 4, 12, 16 week period to help them then take more ownership of their experience in their weight room, their sport, their activity for long-term better ownership of their own health outcomes.